for today's second day of our skill strengthening workshop. So most of you, I believe almost all of you, have been attending our first day of the workshop that was focusing on the basics, on the monitoring of the right to education. Now, today, we are focusing on a particular dimension of the right to education. And we'll have more practical applied discussions and the sharing of country experiences around access to and participation in education, early childhood care and education, and private actors' involvement in education. So it's a great opportunity for us to go deeper, sharing of experience, a lot of knowledge exchange. And for all of this to be possible, we are very thankful to the RTE, Right to Education initiative, that is partnering with the Hub in this workshop. And we hope that this engagement can continue in the near future as well. Apologies as my connection was not great. I hand over now to Delphine Dorsey.
Thank you, José Luis. Good morning, good evening, I think for most of you, good afternoon. We are very happy to be with you again today to continue our engagement in this workshop on monitoring the right to education. As José Luis said, we are going to go in different groups today to deep dive into specific topic and really go practical exercise and use the tool. Just to flag, like we know this is a lot of information and probably will require more than these 2 hours to explore the monitoring of all these issues. So really today we are going to start getting in. We really want you to get home with new resources, tool. You can ask all your questions you want in your breakout room to be able to use that and explore further when you will be home. And we will be there as well as follow up if needed after this workshop, because we know there are a lot to cover on this topic. And before we go in the group session, so there may be some people who are joining us only today, but just to say, we will share as well the presentation of yesterday, so you will be able to catch up. And in the breakout room, we will also be able to respond and clarify any question you have. But before moving in the breakout room session, we wanted to open the floor. If there are any general questions you have from yesterday you would like us to clarify or to respond, or if you would like to share a perspective from your country on monitoring, you will be able to do that as well, of course, in the breakout room on each topic you have choose to focus on. But as an introduction, if there are any things, we are happy to respond now. And again, yesterday we insisted on the interactivity of this workshop. So really feel free, even now in the plenary, to share things in the chat. And in the breakout room, I mean, each of us will guide you on how we will conduct this workshop. But as you will be a smaller number in each group, we will be able to interact even more with you. So really looking forward to hear more from you today. And yeah, let us know if now we are open for responding any question or hearing from you any general comment on monitoring. Checking the chat to see, coming from so many countries.
If someone wants to speak, can raise the hands or even unmute yourselves. So now we have opened the mics as well.
We have seen that one of you already respond to the worksheet we shared yesterday. So we are glad to see this have been already useful. And you've been able to identify even the concluding observation and the recommendation made to your country. So that's great. So I don't see any question. I don't know. If no one want to, you can, I don't know, maybe, someone have a question. Ala, you can open your microphone.
Hi everyone. Thank you so much for this workshop, really insightful and very critical to us in Sudan. Currently, Sudan is in war. We have around 17 million children out of school. We are trying to put them back into school. So understanding all of these international legislations and having this ability when we sit with policymakers is very crucial. My main question, I think, and this is not a question, it's just a challenge I see, is the monitoring. Yesterday, I don't know who mentioned that, but you distinguish between two kinds of monitoring. The monitoring that is done for the whole education system, and it should be done by the government. And this is where the challenge we have now, and this is where it is very critical, because a lot of countries sign conventions, agreements, but implementation is a real challenge in most of the countries. And this is where we are in Sudan. Sudan has signed a lot of conventions for the right of education. We have issued in 2020 a child law, which made it mandatory for children to attend basic education. We extended basic education up to the age of 15 because we introduced a new level called the intermediate level. But monitoring, implementation in a country very fragile with political conflict, economic stress is very difficult. So what are the tools can support us and when we talk to policymakers? So thank you.
And just, Hala, can you tell me which actor you are? Are you from the States or you are civil society organization or researcher?
I am a university professor, and also I work with an international organization, so civil society plus governmental. Yes, thank you. But we have developed what we call a transitional education plan endorsed by the government. We all civil society organizations, international donors. It's a 3-year plan. That one of the main parts of the plan is access. Now I see a gap in the top after attending this workshop, because access without enforcing the law and in the conventions for the right of education, access will not happen. And this is where we are struggling now. A lot of donors are coming to Sudan. A lot of funding is coming to Sudan, but without raising the awareness about this. So this is why I think it's very crucial to draw the eyes of all international donors and actors to this right to education, because it will support access. Thank you.
Sorry. Thank you very much, Hala, for your comment on this. So I try to give some direction on that. We know implementing the right to education and therefore monitoring the right to education in a conflict-affected context is really, really challenging. And the challenge comes because there are other priority to deal with, and the instability of the country, and all these things make complicated the implementation and the monitoring. But where it can be very useful to do your monitoring, so just to say before, even it's a conflict situation, the right to education should be implemented. And so states still have obligation, with the support of international community if needed, to implement the right to education. Of course, we need to take into account the current context, and they may have to have competition between priorities and what to prioritize in the countries. If it's a post-conflict, they need maybe to also have investment to do in reconstruction of the country, which may include actually school. There's the health issue and another topic. And so where monitoring can help, so I'm not talking about the challenge of monitoring now, I'm just talking about how this can help, is also to, and I'm saying that because you are a researcher as well, and in the research and assessment and collection of data you can make, is to assess where should be the priority. Where to the extent possible, because there are some challenge in doing the monitoring, but because the situation is unstable, you need to make choice. What should be the priority? Should the priority go to support internal displaced students, for instance, or to reconstruct school, or to secure school in some places? So is there a specific group that is more affecting than another? So if you do a monitoring, you may decide where should be the priority, especially if they are limited funds and because of the economic crisis, and also to advocate to donors. So the donors, they come with their own agenda and sometimes knowing what they think they should do. But you can also, doing your own monitoring, provide guidance on where should the money go. So even in situations like that, where it's very complicated to implement and realize the right to education, you can provide guidance. Of course, and we flagged that yesterday a bit, we know how difficult it is to monitor in such situation because of the instability, because of the risk, because of the political tension, because sometimes you cannot even travel on the ground to collect the data. So in this situation is what we said yesterday. Maybe it's not a comprehensive overview of the right to education. Maybe you just share information from a locality or a specific region where you have access, but this information, even is not the full scope, will be useful for anyone who can access it. So the states and any external donors that can support the states in implementing the right to education. So it's challenging. There are some limitations, but it can be also very useful and guide the choice in implementation of the right to education. I hope this responds your question, Ala. Great. I don't know if there are questions in the chat. I'm checking if my team is... I don't know if on the chat I'm checking is there any other things. I don't know if Raji and Juliana, you want to add on what I said, just feel free. I see some people wanted to share experience next year. That's amazing. And we hope you can share also your perspective today. So there are Dr. Youssef Al-Rami from Yemen who said conflict and war violate all law and rights related to education. How can this be stopped? So, yeah, I see you put it again, your question. That's a good one. I'm going to respond. I think I always said that when we are in workshop and we exchange with partners like you, like really are facing so huge challenge in your own country as Yemen, there are some limitations, you know, like human rights and law is not a magic trick because we have a convention and recognition of the right to education, and maybe there are some recognition and law at national level. We know is not enough. And in some country, and especially when it's war, we know that nothing is respected. You know, this is a war. So even we try to put, I mean, there are agreements about the rule to follow in war and to respect the school and to protect education and other public services and health and others. We are facing, this is not a question of human rights or a particular question of human rights, but is the limitation is our us as human beings, you know, and the choice we make for our humanity and the people around us. We make the choice. No, I mean, you can force. There are mechanisms in place. That's why there are codified laws. That's why there are recognition, and that states are putting some mechanisms at national level for, you know, making the system works and respecting rights. But at some points, you know, when nothing is working and no one, and especially the one in power, are not respecting anything, this is very challenging, especially for the general citizens who don't have access to the power. So I think this is also something we need to acknowledge. There are some limitations as well. How far we can implement and respect law when the human being behind that don't want to do anything. And especially in conflict and war, where all the system and the structure explodes a bit, even between states, within states, it makes the things complicated because also of the instability, the reporting process, monitoring, the way to claim accountability, to claim your rights is really undermined. So that's a challenge. How we can stop that? I mean, how we change how people behave, that's my main question. I always ask, you know, it's not enough to work on law and human rights, is how we change ourselves. But what we observe is even in this complicated situation is always important to monitor and report. It's important to document what's happened, even for the history, you know, for post-war conflict, you know, what we will know about this situation, how we can document how children have been out of school for X amount of war and this type of conflict has this impact. For the history, that's important. And as I said yesterday, recently, at the moment, we've been doing some work in Sahel region in Africa, where there are massive closure of school in the conflict zone. And the partner on the ground, they said how important it is for them just to document and for people outside to know what's going on in the country and how the right to education of children is violated. So sometimes you cannot fix the problem and the issue directly, but documenting and raising visibility is part of the recovering process.
Delphine, two more questions on the chat. Is there any toolkit for monitoring rights to education for children with disabilities at school level? And there is also another question in related to how UN can monitor whether state parties are really utilizing opportunities to materialize the commitments they have made on individual treaties and conventions.
So on disabilities, thank you, Raji. On disabilities, I don't know if there are a specific tool we can check. We don't have a specific tool on disabilities, but in our two thematic guide we shared yesterday on higher education and ECC, there is a specific question and guidance on children with disability. In our monitoring guide, there are also, in the indicator selection tool, you can also select indicators on children with disabilities. Yesterday, we shared the tool on promoting rights in school, the tool developed in collaboration with ActionAid. There are 10 dimensions of the right to education to check. And if I'm correct, I think there are one as well on children with disabilities. So if you work at community level and school level, this tool can also be useful. But there are some reference in the tool we share. And if you want more information and guidance, maybe you email us and we'll direct you exactly to which indicator and which page. But they are not a specific guide, but there are indicators there to guide you. And we have our page on children with disabilities as well, where you can have all the legal framework and information. So we took a note, and we can also, like, if we, I haven't seen your name, but if we can follow up with KIX, we can share more information on that. And on the question on how UN monitor, so it's true. Yesterday we didn't go into these mechanisms because of limited time. But there is UN human rights mechanisms to monitor how states have implemented the treaty, and they have ratified. And so it's an interesting mechanisms, because the states voluntary report. I mean, voluntary. They have an obligation to report, but they did their own report to the committee. So they inform under each rights what they have done, so including the right to education. And in this process, civil society organizations can also send what we call alternative report. So they bring their own perspective that can complement what the states have sent, or highlight issues the states have not mentioned, or that may be a challenge in the country, or maybe it's not taking, there are not enough effort on this area. And so the UN treaty bodies, the committee, so for instance, we have the Committee on the Rights of the Child, they combine all this information. They ask follow-up questions to the states on some dimensions they may have not developed and that have maybe been raised maybe by civil society organization. And then there is an interactive dialogue where the committee members, the expert exchange with the states. So there are delegations from the government that come and from different departments and perspectives to share information. And the committee then make recommendation. And this is very useful for the states because they have specific recommendation for the coming years or where they should focus on to implement the right to education. And for civil society, it's also useful to maybe choose some specific monitoring or do specific research on these topics that can support the implementation of this concluding observation, and also track if the state is moving into the direction of implementation. So there is a mechanisms at the UN level to monitor the implementation. And we share the link yesterday on where you can access the concluding observation of your own country. And if it's useful, we can re-explain that and show this again in the breakout room today.
Yeah. There is a question about, do we send the worksheet answers here or by Gmail? And actually, we will do the worksheet. We'll discuss about it during the workshop. And also, there is a information from about the situation in Yemen. The war in Yemen has caused a surge in school dropout rates, reaching 4.5 million children, most of whom are girls. And also, there is one more question or a statement in Arabic. I'm sorry.
Thanks, Raji. And the workshop was mainly developed for you and to use in the workshop. So the one we shared yesterday was to guide you. So someone share it, and we were super happy to look at it. If it's useful for you, we look at your worksheet and we provide comments. Feel free to share. But otherwise, it was a tool for you the one from yesterday, to guide you in how to collect the data. So maybe I take this last question and we'll go in breakout rooms.
Yeah. Is global standards for right to education achieved and to some extent?
So I'm not sure I got this question. So I don't know. The question if they are achieved already and to some extent. So, and I don't know if you are just referring to right to right and obligation, or if you are referring as well global standard, or if for education and to some extent, or if you are looking at the global sustainable development goal. I mean, we are far to realize, so I'm not sure I fully get the question, but let's try to provide an answer. We are far from realizing the right to education from everywhere, every places. And and we have the sharing in the chat about the situation in war context, which is so detrimental for the right to education and for generation and for the country. Because as we said yesterday, the right to education is important for the development or well-being, but also for even for peace and society and the well-being of the society. So there are new challenges now, and what we see more and more is, of course, there are progression. If you look at the things like there are more girls involved in education, there are increase in the enrollment, but there are a lot of questions about the quality of education. The most marginalized group are often left behind. So, if you have money now with this commercialization of education that have grown in the past year, so you see, like, if you have money, you can access education. If not, you are left behind. So we see an increase in inequality, and there are new issues that come up as the use of technology. We see like the impact of climate change and the environment. Of course, the conflict, like in every region, there are conflict at the moment. So there are progress, I think, like, and we see progression in terms of state commitment in, protecting the right, developing law and policies, and we have just got this example as well of, new law, even in Sudan, despite the war, there's the adoption of new law to protect children's rights. So there are progress. There are people that really want to move towards it, and we can see some development, but it's still a challenge, and there are still work to do, and the extent will depend of each state and also your own situation. So in some places there are progression, in some places there are step back, for instance because of the war. So responding about which extent is quite challenges now in 2 words, but there are progress, but still a lot of challenges for the implementation. So I think in the circumstance of science, a real challenge in developing effective curricula for the sake of safety and security and for promoting peace. Yeah, no, but the situation in Sudan and other countries is really challenging at the moment. I mean, it's... I know, Youssef, I know. But I think it's still important to raise it. I mean, even when country does not show up. So in Afghanistan, recently, the Committee on the Elimination of Discrimination Against Women, they convene and they make recommendations, even there are no state reports. And so, they convene, they talk with the state representatives that outside the country, and they made recommendation. And we know this is not going probably too late to change directly, but its name is shared by others, is documented, and is a way to move forward. I know it's not enough. I know this is really limited, but it's better than nothing that we don't ignore it, we name it, we indicate their violation, and there are things to change. And I think this is as important, because otherwise they just disappear and become invisible. And that's why collecting data is important, because otherwise the issue disappears from the screen. But I hope we can go more into this conversation as we go in the breakout room, and you can share even orally your perspective and share questions. Okay, so I suggest, because now we still have 1 hour and a half, and we have a lot of things to cover in terms of using the tool on each different area. So let's move into the workshop, and I'm turning to the KIX team maybe to explain how this will work now. And we will reconvene together at the end for 5 minutes, so we'll be again together.
Thank you, Delphine. I think it was helpful to have this small reunion and time for questions and answers. So now hopefully everything will be very smoothly. We'll have our colleague Yasmina Osama, who is a technical host. She will be allocating all the participants to the different rooms in accordance to the answers you gave when you applied to the workshop. So there are 3 thematic areas: access to and participation in education, early childhood care and education, and private actors' involvement in education. Each of these areas are in one of the rooms, so you will be automatically now starting to be allocated, and Yasmina will be leading that on the technical end. Doesn't mean, however, that you need to keep to the thematic areas you have chosen. You also have the opportunity to go back and choose another room. But as a way of going now, we will allocate you in accordance to the preference you have set in the application. So the main room will be, we will have access to and participation in education. Room number 1 will be ECCE, Early Childhood Care and Education, and room number 2 will be Private Actors in Education. So I think we can start that once.
Jose, shall we mention the language?
Yes, that's a very important. Go ahead, Marina. Go ahead, mention it. Yeah.
So just for all participants, before you go to the breakout rooms, just one information. For those that need interpretation into Arabic and Russian, we recommend that you stay in the main room, where we will continue to have interpretation. In the 2 breakout rooms on private actors and early childhood education, we will not have interpretation. So those groups will be English only. So for anyone needing interpretation into Russian and Arabic, please, if you are in another room, please come back to the main room, or write to any of us in the KIX EMAP team. You can write to Yasmina so that we can help you move to the correct room so you can follow the discussions accordingly.
Hey everyone, that was too short. I don't know, I didn't have debrief in the other one, but in our one we needed more time.
Yes, same here.
Same. No, we needed an extra.
Same for us. Same for us.
So we didn't discuss with the other groups, so we'll do a debrief after, but I understand was the same. I hope even it was short and we may have not been able, at least I can speak on my group in, like we've managed to highlight the tool and present the tool, but not had enough time to get into it. I hope still this will be useful for you when you go back in your respective place. Like you can start to explore the tool, the worksheet, that is have open new thinking, this human rights perspective. We look at the enjoyment, we look at the state's effort, what is a legal framework, and starting to navigate that. We know it was too short to cover all these things, is very dense. But please feel free to go back to us. So we will share follow-up information in terms of resources on each topic for you to get more information. If you have any question, follow-up question on how to use the tool or where to find information or specific question related to your context and where to start with, please email us, ask us. We'll be very happy to answer and guide you on the next steps for doing your monitoring process, because we know it was a bit short. I don't know, Juliana and Raji, if you want to say something in addition of what I said before we close.
Yeah, same here. We, if we have 30 minutes more, it would have been better. So, yeah.
Yeah, we had initially planned for 2-hour workshop, but because we wanted to share some perspective with you in introductions and
Yeah, the main thing is what is really disturbing is the national realities, where when everyone shared about the status of ECC in their country, it's really disturbing. And it makes us to realize that a long way to go, and we had to continue to monitor and do this work more.
Just a quick word on our side. So we also found that we were cut short also on our objectives, but I think it was interesting because people shared a little bit, and we could see similarities on the variables that impact access and participation in many different countries. So we see that there are global issues that need to be tackled, and it is interesting to see that every country has also its particularities. So even if we could identify similarities, there were also some topics and some variables that limit access and participation that are very context specific. So this is the only thing that I would like to highlight. And I already told my team that they can get back to us if they have any questions. Thank you all for listening and participating.
And just to flag, when you email us, I put it our generic email so the three of us can get it. Put a KIX EMAP workshop. So when we see the subject, we know it's a follow-up of the workshop. We don't miss you.
Sure.
Sorry, I didn't put the correct address. It's .org.
And Delphine, just to mention as well, if participants want to send any of the questions, any of the worksheets to the KIX EMAP Hub, which they have been in contact with as well, we're also happy to forward that to you, so you have it. All right, so we're coming to the end of our 2-day workshop on monitoring the right to education, and I know we are all hungry. I think we have someone that is not on mute. Okay. I know we are all hungry to continue the discussions on this topic, but I hope these 2 days were a very good basis for you to start reflecting more on the monitoring of the right to education in your context, reflecting also on the challenges that are happening and also in ways to address those challenges. So we hope this was a very good start of this process. We also we'll share with you in the chat and also via email a link to the post-event survey that we have for these events. And we ask you to please share not only your feedback via this survey, so how was your experience in this workshop, what we can do better as well, but also how you'd like to engage further with this topic. And we have there a menu of options, but please also include in the comment box any suggestions, any gaps that you have that you would like to explore further on this topic. And last but not least, thank you so much to the Right to Education Initiative team for delivering these 2 very insightful days of workshop for all of us, for making it interactive. And I think it is really rich that we could listen from such diverse experiences that we have in the room and also learn from each other. So thank you so much. Thank you to all the participants for your active engagement, and we look forward to seeing you in the next KIX EMAP activity.
Marina, just one moment. Can we ask all the participants if they can open the camera to have one picture?
Yes, let's have one picture together. Everyone, please open your camera for a second.